Why do I have 2 birthdays? Well, back in what, 2011, I had a Kawasaki KX500, and I was flying the first time I rode the thing, and I was flying around the track at Arizona Cycle Park, just having a good time. Went out on the big national track, did the old school track. Man, just having a ball on the bike. Couldn't believe how nice it was. Power everywhere, suspension, but I digress. Anyway, I came in and I had something to drink, and I went out for the second practice. Well, I did about 2-3 laps, and I was riding. Oh, there's a road right there. And yeah, all of a sudden I started feeling like I drank too much water. I just didn't feel right, so I pulled in, and I thought, well, I'll just hit the third practice that they have there. And I went out for the third practice. I got about halfway around the track, if that. I don't even think I made it that far. And all of a sudden I just started feeling horrible. I don't even know how to describe it. I just started feeling really strange. So I go, well, I'm going back to the truck. And it was on a Wednesday. They had practice on Wednesday. And so I started back to the truck, but I got off the track. I was riding the little road that the water truck normally drives on, you know, just so it'd be smooth and it would cut me across. And next thing I know, I'm laying up against the side of a berm. I had passed out, and the bike's on my leg. I'm laying on this shoulder like this. I'm trying to lift myself off there was time before that. So anyway, I came to, and I couldn't breathe. And all I remember thinking was, God, don't let me die like this. I just kept thinking that, God, don't let me die like this, man. And so I was struggling to get my helmet off so I could get some air, you know, because it's the motocross helmet with the goggles and all that. So it's not like you can just go like that. So anyway, get my helmet off, and I'm just kind of getting my composure back. And I thought, okay, I guess I'm okay. I didn't know if I had the wind knocked out of me or what, but I just knew I couldn't breathe. But I thought, okay, I'll lay here a minute or two, and then I'll lift this bike off, which weighs probably about like this. And I laid there, and my strength never did came back. Well, the bad part was I was on the water truck road, and so I was behind a berm. And you know, fortunately, Arizona Cycle Park, it sits down in a bowl. And Bobby White, who was a friend of mine who owns the track, it was Wednesday. There were probably 5 bikes out there, and so he couldn't hear me. And so he comes looking for me. You know, he didn't hear the bike going around the track. And I see him up there. And so I wave, and then he's in his little, like Kawasaki Rhino or whatever. And so he comes down. And I said, Bobby, help me get this bike off my leg. I can't move it. And then I told him, I said, you know, I think I had a heart attack. And the guy's laughing at me. Ha, ha, ha. You didn't have a heart attack. And he's laughing, ha, ha, because he's an EMT. And he goes, I've seen guys have a heart attack, and you're not having a heart attack. And I go, well, I don't know what I can't lift this bike off me. So, anyway, so he lifts the bike off, and then I take this little track buggy, this little Rhino up there, and I go back to the truck, and then he comes up on my bike, and the guy still felt horrible, and I had to kind of hunch over, and I just didn't know what was wrong with me, you know. I mean, it wasn't like I had the elephant sitting on my chest, and I was still breathing, and I had no idea what was wrong with me. So called the wife, and she drove out, and the track is an hour and a half away from the house. And they always say, if you have a heart attack, get to the hospital. The first half hour is critical, or 15 minutes or whatever. But anyway, so she gets there, and we park her car there. Bobby's already got my bike loaded in the truck. I helped him tie it down and stuff. You know, so I was still doing a few things, but I couldn't do a lot. And so I was sitting there, and I go, "You got any aspirin?" And he goes, "No." And I go, "You're kidding me. You know, I mean, you're an EMT, you got all this shit, you don't have any aspirin?" So I go, "Fine." So so we wait, and wife shows up. We hop in my truck, and there was one hospital that was fairly close, you know, within 20 minutes. And I go, "No, I'm feeling pretty good. We'll just go to the one by our house, you know." And so we continue to drive for another hour and a half. Get to the hospital, and we park. And that's when I realized something was really wrong. Because as I was walking, you know, we parked in emergency, and as I'm walking just a slight grade up to the emergency door, I told my wife at the time, I said, "You know, I may not make it up here." And so I walked in the emergency room doors, and there was a cop sitting there at the desk with the nurse, and I must have looked pretty bad, because he goes, "Do you want a wheelchair?" And I said, "Yes, please." So he gets up and gets me a wheelchair, and got a car coming. And so anyway, my wife's at the time, she's checking me in, and she's checking me in, and I tell the lady, because I'm not really sure, but I want her to know it's kind of important. So I tell her, it's like, I tell the nurse at the desk, I go, "You know, I think I had a heart attack." And then she goes, "Oh, okay." And then she gets like the guy with the little EKG machine, little portable one, comes out, hooks me up to it. You know, now they're kind of like going, "Oh God, don't die on this." So, and I was 53 at the time, you know, never had any problems. In fact, about a month before that, I passed my first class medical for my commercial license, flying. So, you know, on that they do an EKG. Nothing showed, nothing ever showed. Never had any problems. So, anyway, they took my EKG, pulse, all blood pressure, all that. Everything's normal. And I go, "Well, okay, well, maybe it's not a heart attack, but something's still wrong." So then another hour goes by, and because they check you every hour, and the guy comes back out with his little EKG card and checks me again. Yep, still doing good. So I finally make it into the emergency ward, you know, and this is probably 4 hours after I've had the heart attack. And I go in there, and they take blood, and when you have a heart attack, I guess that there's some kind of markers or tracers, it leaves. And all of a sudden, everybody starts talking. Everybody's like, "Oh, no, we got to do this and this and this. You know, here's a nitroglycerin pill. You've had a heart attack." And I'm going, "Well, I kind of thought I did," but, you know, it wasn't like, grab my chest and fall, you know. It was like, it seized up the blood enough to where my brain stopped getting any, which explains a lot if you listen to my videos. And then I passed out, and then it must have slowly trickled back in there. And I think it's still about the same rate, because I've never really been the same since. But so anyway, you know, that's when the doctors, you know, they go, "Okay, well, you know, you're gonna be in surgery 7 a.m. in the morning. You know, you're gonna have a cardiac catheterization. They cut the main artery down in your leg, the big giant one that's about that big." And so And it was one of those things where now all of a sudden you're like in disbelief. You're hooked up to all these IVs and machines, and it's almost like this camera angle where I was looking at it from like a viewer, and it was so weird because it was like I just have to do this. There we go. Oh, of course I did that. Now it hits my bike. God dang it. Trying to be a smartass. Jeez. I probably ripped the boot and everything else. But yeah, it's really surreal because once you have something major, you're just a spectator. You're just along for the ride. You know, it's like, and I wasn't really quite sure what was going on. And, you know, not to the full thing as to where they're going to run this catheter in through your groin. And then if you have any blocked arteries, you're going to run this wire mesh down through it and inflate it, or run this stent down through it and inflate a balloon and expand it and let it sit there for the rest of your life. And yeah, it was really strange then. So anyway, I ended up just having one stent, and then they did an angioplasty, is where they go in and they expand a smaller, or an artery that's got some blockage. And then they just leave it, you know, hoping they'll stay like that. Let's see if that thing tore up my boots. I bet you it did. So yeah, I thought, well, I'll be real cute and I'll just run over that thing. Oh, made them shiny. Okay, just double checking. Usually you don't get away with something like that. It tears it up and costs you about $60. This one here is twisted though. So anyway, so that's where I sit now, and that kind of ended my flying. I'm trying to get my medical back right now, but that kind of ended my flying. Like I said, you know, a lot of people, they have stents put in and they go, man, I feel great, man, I feel the best I felt in years. And I've never felt like that. I feel okay, and I do good on the EKGs like I did, but I did when I had a heart attack too. But I have never felt like, oh man, this is like a huge thing, you know, so a huge difference. I've never felt like that. So yeah, I went into the hospital on April 11th, 2012, and then 7 a.m. in the morning, actually they start pretty early to get you prepped. I went in and had the cardiac catheterization and had a stent put in and had the angioplasty done, and God, they sent me home with a bunch of drugs. And that's one of the things. I've always had a normal, you know, blood pressure. They always go, oh man, 120/80, yeah, you're healthy as a horse. You know, even up to that day, I was still, yeah, you're healthy as a horse. But they sent me home with a bunch of drugs, and one of them lowered my blood pressure down to like 95 or 98. I felt horrible. Oh my God, I felt horrible. And it wasn't until I switched doctors and I went to the other one. He said, oh, I'm going to get you off these two. And, you know, how you feeling? Good. Yeah, you don't need those. So that was cool. But, yeah, you know, after you have a heart attack or something, just getting the medicines right, that could be a thing. Because I had to deliver a motorcycle, 75 TM250, to a guy in California. And I didn't think I was going to make the trip. I actually felt like I actually felt bad enough to pull over to the side of the road and write kind of like a goodbye note to my my wife and daughter. My wife at the time, since we're no longer together. But yeah, I actually felt bad enough to. I didn't think I was going to make it back from the trip. I felt so horrible. And so, anyway, that comes back to having 2 birthdays. So you got my first one, my real one. That's in June. But then my second one, I'm always happy to see, because that means I've made it another year with this piece of metal. You know, some people have several. I had to have another stent put in a year ago. I actually didn't need it. The doctor was just buying a new home or had a car payment. But yeah, actually, turns out I had another doctor go, "You didn't need another stent." I go, "I figured he was." It's just one of those things where you think the doctor's screwing you over. Yeah, trust your gut. He probably is. So anyway, so yeah, I'm looking forward to April 12th. That's the day I had my stent put in, or April 11th. That's the day that I didn't die when I probably should have. But for some reason, I'm still here. I know my ex-wife's probably not too happy about it. So, God dang it, man! I was this close. Could have had the house paid for and everything. So, and then sometimes you think, you know, because right now she hates me, my daughter hates me. But sometimes you kind of think, yeah, maybe it would have been better. You know, at least I would have gone out on the peak, on the high note. So, but here I am, YouTube star, king of the DRz250's, going through a pandemic. Jeez. A worldwide pandemic, I might add. Yeah, it's just crazy. You know, one day, you know, your world could change. And then, like I said, it's almost like the view you have now, except for I just remember looking down at all this tubes and crap hooked to me, and I actually couldn't believe it. It was like I was watching it from someone else's eyes. It was the strangest damn thing. Yeah, when you're going through something like that, you're just utter shock, and disbelief. So anyway, by the time this video is published, I hopefully will have made it to my 8th birthday since the heart attack thing. And you know, sometimes I'm back out on the trails, because I had people ask me, "Aren't you afraid to be back there by yourself?" And it's like, sometimes I really am. I get back there and I'm like really breathing hard, and I'm thinking, oh shit, man, that'd be screwed if something happened to me. But you just got to still live your life. You know, you just can't, you know, oh God, I had this happen, and I'm sitting on the couch, or I can't leave the recliner now, you know, and that happens quite a bit. But yeah, you just have to get back on the horse, even if it's a slow horse. Like I said, I'm out here doing this, and I'm loving it. I'm loving all the new places I've seen. You know, I don't have a flying career anymore, so that kind of sucks. I'm not putting out, or helping to put out forest fires, which is what I was doing, which I loved. So, but yeah, you just adapt, you change, you realize, okay, well, this is the new, you know, it's kind of like going from the RMX to this. It's like, okay, well, this is the new way it's going to be. This is the way, it's just a new chapter or a new segment in your life. So, we'll just motor on by this RAV4. 4 guys in the RAV4. Wow. A little odd. All right. So, yeah, so that's my story. I'm sticking to it. So, yeah. if you're listening to this, you've already had a big change like that, or you will. No one gets out for free, you know, not unless you just don't wake up. You know, had I not woke up, then, and that's kind of weird too, because you know, had I not woken up, I would have never known it, you know, because I didn't realize I was passed out until I woke up. I didn't realize I had blacked out on the motorcycle. So, yeah, it would have just been like I was never here or something. I don't know. It's really hard to explain. But I've thought about, you know, you think about that on those nights. But, yeah, you just kind of go, well, had I not woke up, you know, I wouldn't have known it. I would have just been wherever you go. I would have just been gone. So it's not like, you know, there was no, you know, out-of-the-body experience or anything, but you just kind of realize that when the lights go out like that, I had no idea I was done. So, and had the heart not started pumping again, or whatever, you know, where I got blood flowing to my brain, yeah. You know, it wouldn't have been like one of these tragic deaths, you know, I mean, it would have just been, I blacked out and I never woke up, you know. And I know when I was having a cardiac catheterization August of last year, I know they were checking in order for me to get my FA medical back, they had to go in and check, make sure everything's good. They have to look at it. So they go in, they actually went in through my wrist. And, you know, but I remember I was, you know, and they're prepping you. And I remember I was laying on the table. And they had already given me like a Benadryl, which is kind of weird, but it's not the Benadryl the guy said that you buy on the counter. And so I'm already kind of buzzed, got a good buzz going. I'm really having to think about how I speak, kind of like when I'm doing these videos. I have to like really think about how to pronounce words and larger than like 4 letters. And excuse me. And then he said, okay, well, we're going to inject you with whatever. And, you know, I saw him put it in the IV, and I was laying on the table, and it was cold in the operating room. And, you know, you're 3/4 naked, I guess. And I remember I was shivering, and then I remember waking up in recovery. So there's none of this, for my experience, there's none of this, oh, death is a cold, evil thing. Once I was out, I didn't know. I mean, you could have set me on fire. I don't think I would have known. Or you could have thrown me in the morgue freezer, and I don't think I would have known. But yeah, it's really weird. You know, once you get on the anesthesia or on the drugs, and you lose consciousness. You know, there was no cold sting of death. There was no temperature change with death. You know, so or even being put out. You know, like I said, I went from shivering on the operating table to waking up in the recovery room. So, and that was it. So that's just kind of weird. You think about life and dying and stuff like that a little bit different after something like that. So anyway, I got off topic. I meant to do just a little thing. I was just kind of excited that it's been 8 years. So, and I'm still able to get out and ride bikes. I've ridden motorcycles since I was 14 years old. So I'm just excited I'm still able to do this. And that's all I know about that. So anyway, I'm going to let you guys go. I should have let you go a long time ago. I don't know if I'll publish this or not. But anyway, that's the story. So some people have multiple birthdays. No, there's always a story behind it. So I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. Ah, goodness. Beautiful day, Lord. Beautiful day. Yeah, we'll let the RMX go, and you'll be my new ride. We'll have adventures.